Okay, how are we all doing in here? We still awake? Yeah? Okay. Raise your hand if you've ever used... Is that reverb? Raise your hand if you've ever used a layer 2. Not that many, actually. Okay. Keep your hand up if you've used a ZK layer 2. Pretty much the same. Nice. What about if you've used a decentralized ZK layer 2? Okay, good. No. Okay, so basically my talk today is going to be about the future of Linea. Linea is the home network for the world. It's a ZK EVM layer 2. And we're going to talk about how we plan to decentralize Linea. So first, quick introduction. GM, that's me, that's Declan Fox, so I'm the product lead of Linea, also a core contributor to the Linea ecosystem. If you want to follow me on Twitter, that's my Twitter handle. But before we talk about the future of Linea, I want to take a step back and look at the history. So what is the law of Linea? And it actually goes way, way back to 2018, so 6 years ago. Okay? Linea has actually been formed out of consensus, and consensus R&D was focused around Ethereum 2. So if you remember, back in 2017, 2018, we had the CryptoKitties, yeah, the ICO boom. It was very clear that Ethereum would not scale. We were getting gas fees of up to $100, so we needed to scale Ethereum. And that was where Ethereum 2.0 came in. And it was all about execution sharding. We explored these ideas for a bit. But it didn't really make sense. So we kind of, moving forward, we got to 2019 and we said, hey, let's do roll-ups. The infamous roll-up-centric roadmap. Okay, so we set about to do roll-ups. Lots of teams then started to think about optimistic roll-ups because ZK was too challenging. Then a lot of the ZK team said, hey, we're going to do ZK, but we're going to do it in a VM, not an EVM, because ZK EVMs are too difficult. So we like hard problems, and we said, screw it, we'll try and do the ZK EVM. That will be our contribution. So we went about trying to do the ZK EVM. 2020, research. 2021, still more research. Ooh, can it be done? Not quite sure. It's tough. 2022, ooh, yeah, actually. This can be done. So we started to publish some of our specifications at Bogota and DevCon, starting to show like, hey, actually we can ZKify the EVM. We can actually do this, and it's going to be efficient and performant and everything. Then we got to 2023, EFCC, Paris, July. We actually launched Linea mainnet alpha. So we actually did it. We actually proved that it could be done. We launched the ZK EVM for Linea after many, many years of research. And so skipping all the way forward, like today, we're now seeing, execution, like peak performance at around 50 TPS. We're securing $1 billion. It's kind of scary in TVL. We've got a DApp ecosystem of over 420 different infrastructure, applications, partners, and protocols. Okay, so the goal. Our real mission at Linea, it's very simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. It's simply to make Ethereum affordable forever. Okay, and without compromising security and without compromising decentralization. Okay, this is really important for us. It's really important for Ethereum. We kind of break it down into these 3 buckets, okay? So it's scale, security, decentralization. So we start off with scale, and you can see here, this is essentially the execution throughput capacity for Linea over time. So we can start over here where we launched the mainnet alpha. We're down at 2 megagas per second roughly. It's pretty measly. Megagas per second is just a way to sort of measure the throughput. But as you can see, over time, we've worked really, really hard to vertically scale Linea and increase the execution throughput capacity. Okay, we want to have cheap transactions forever, so to do that, we need to enable more block space for more transactions. And you can see there's sort of a nice jump here. There's some low-hanging fruit that we smashed out at the beginning of 2024. And then it starts to get a little bit more challenging. There's some state growth problems and other things that make it difficult. But essentially, our target is to increase the throughput of Linea by 20% quarter over quarter. And we're going to do that until we get to 2 gigagas per second. Okay, so this was a roughly 2. This blue line is Ethereum, by the way, so you can already see how we're starting to diverge away from what Ethereum can do. And we get up to here today, we're around 15 megagas per second, which is the joint most that you can do on any EVM L2 today. But we're going to keep increasing quarter over quarter until we get to 2 gigagas per second, or 2,000 megagas per second, which for the TPS heads is around 20, 30,000 transactions per second. Security. So security is a very, very important thing to think about when you're building a roll-up. We break this down into a few different categories. ZK, you want to trust maths, not validators. You should be building secure solutions on ZK. EVM equivalence. So the EVM has managed $50 trillion days in security, which is more than like any other smart contract platform. And that same specification is what you get on Linea. Client diversity. So not many people know this, but you can take a vanilla Ethereum client, like a Geth client, a Bezu client, Nethermind, Aragon, take your pick, and you can sync it to Linea, which is incredibly important. It's great for client diversity. Open source. We now have more active Ethereum core developers working on the Linea software than all other L2s combined. Okay, so we're really about engaging the Linea, the Ethereum core developer ecosystem, all working on one single software, one single stack to make it the most performant, scalable, and secure stack available. Security partnerships, so the application layer, we focus on the best sort of vendors to make sure applications are thinking about security. We're currently formally verifying the ZK VM to make sure the spec manages the implementation, and the multi-prover, which you may have heard about. So once we have the ZK VM, we'll also add ZK VM, so there's not a single point of failure. Decentralization. This was actually the roadmap that we published before we even launched mainnet. So we thought about when we came to launch mainnet, we wanted to make sure that we had this plan for decentralization and trust minimization, and we sort of stuck to it. And so this has not changed since. We're currently around sort of phase 1, like everything's open source, Apache 2 license, finally finishing off the 100% coverage for the prover, doing some work on the Security Council. There's still lots to do. Like decentralization is really, really hard problem, which is why no roll-up has done it today, and no one had their hand up at the beginning. So we're sort of focusing our attention around decentralized operations. We recently published a forum post around our plans to turn Linea into a decentralized proof-of-stake mechanism, so you can go and check that out. It's had lots of interest. And governance as well. So we've been thinking a lot about how to create an innovative governance mechanism, which we'll be talking about in a bit more detail. So consensus, sort of Linea Core has done a lot of work today to sort of bootstrap the Linea technology itself as an open source software. It's done a lot of work to advance the ecosystem, to get more applications, more developers, more users to Linea mainnet. But what we kind of realize is there's still a lot to do, and we're not going to be able to do it alone. So in order to sort of create a network for the world, which is the sort of global ambition that Ethereum has and Linea has, we need to do it together. Okay, we need to have everyone row towards the same direction, everyone join the same mission. So users, builders, in order to create a network for the world, we must do it together. But building a network for the world together has a big problem. And that problem today is that it's still too difficult to live on chain. As a user, it's too difficult to onboard. It's too difficult to use the chain. As a builder, it's still too difficult to build good applications that users want to use. And as communities, it's still not that easy to have connection, to have fun on chain. Okay, so in order to cross the chasm and bring more users to Web3, we need to focus on 10xing each of these things. And we need to all be thinking about it together across the whole entire stack. So the way that we're approaching this, or proposing to approach it, is to start off with payments. Payments are a massive use case in crypto and Web3. It's very clear that there is proper value for anyone globally to have access to stablecoins, dollars, to be able to tap their card, to be able to issue a payment to another person. So payments really is a cornerstone. And one of the sort of proof points of how Linea is enabling a sort of very, very highly available, secure, and scalable payments infrastructure is through the proof point of the MetaMask card. So the MetaMask card is available today. If you're in UK and Europe, it's going to be expanding globally. It's going to be in the hands of every single person all around the world. Hundreds of thousands, millions, tens of millions, billions. Like this really is going to be the killer app that brings a lot more people on chain. It's going to be a lot more people to crypto, and then the cool thing is it's all going to be powered by Linea. So we're making sure that we build for a performant, scalable, secure plumbing and guardrails to enable these sort of payments. And the cool thing about the MetaMask card is it's self-custodial, right? It's just simply a better product than you have today. So you can go to your sort of Barclays card bank or HSBC and you can get a card, but you're going to get poor cashback. You're not actually in control of your funds. So the MetaMask card is actually, to a sort of normie or a non-crypto person, just simply a better product, right? It's going to be 10x better. And the sort of tagline for this is, because it is self-custodial, it's your keys, your crypto, your card. And every transaction that happens on the MetaMask card is, of course, a transaction that happens and takes place on Linea. Okay, and the interesting thing about this is that once you have those payments happen, is that you can start to get the benefit of blockchain, which is this composability. So these money Legos, these DeFi money Legos, you can actually then access yield-bearing stablecoins. Okay, so the money that's sitting in your account today kind of does nothing, but with this you'll be able to generate yield. Okay, and you'll be able to select which kind of stablecoin you want to use. You'll be able to put it into a lending protocol and earn even more yield. It's quite feasible that you can have something like 10% or double digits cashback on your money. Like, who's giving that today? No one. Okay, this is why it's going to be a huge innovation. It's going to really demonstrate and benefit from the composability of shared state and blockchains. Okay, and of course, everything is permissionless, which means any application developer out there is going to be able to plug in to these payments, these global on-chain payments through the card. So you can imagine getting your payroll, everything goes straight into your MetaMask account. You can then go to the shops, you can spend it, buy your coffee, buy your groceries. All in the meantime, that's generating yield for you. Okay, so this is extremely powerful. And the other really interesting thing that this enables is that it provides very high value data. So something that we've been focusing on a lot is the actual on-chain identity and reputation stack. And you can see here some of our sort of core primitives. So Verax, which is our attestation registry. So attestations, much better versions of essentially like soulbound NFTs. We're able to provide very granular sort of details and permissions where you can attest to something on-chain. We've actually used this in some of our campaigns thus far to give a proof of humanity, which is like an on-chain attestation that someone is indeed a person. And Linea names as well. So we actually partnered with ENS to deliver Linea names. So you can see here, you can have u.linea.eth. This trustlessly resolves to the L1 using CCIP read. And this starts to build what is quite a nice sort of on-chain identity stack. And how that plugs into the debit card is that every user who signs up for a debit card will have the option to submit an on-chain attestation that then lives on Linea, such that any protocol can then read that and say, this is a real person. They have bought the card. They are spending the card. That is such a valuable piece of information to have on-chain compared to just an address. Okay, so you're going to have this extremely valuable state leveraged through the card, leveraged through DeFi, that then provides a reward engine mechanism. Because if you're an application, you're trying to do marketing, you're thinking about CAC, you're thinking about LTV, it's very, very difficult to do this today because you don't have the identity data. If I'm an application, I'm like, this is someone who's using the card, like that's a really valuable person, I might start to give them a tailored experience or better rewards or better incentives to use my protocol. So all of a sudden it becomes a discovery platform. And all of this we're going to be supporting to build. It's already in progress today, and you're going to start to see this really drive the flywheel for users coming into crypto, getting more value from the applications that are already building on crypto. And that's going to sort of drive the next wave of user adoption. Communities. So we are starting to see on Linea the emergence of organic communities, which is a really interesting thing to sort of observe as an ecosystem member. We have memes, Foxy, eFrogs, Croak, Linus, like all of these memes are sort of like naturally occurring, and it's great to see because it's real. You sort of enter the communities and you can see real enthusiasm and like real direction. These projects, they actually come together to do interesting things, like one of them pulled money together that then they actually used to invest in different projects, like all sort of organic grassroots stuff. Yeah, it's truly amazing to see. Another project actually went and built a decentralized application. So what started off as a meme community, people come together, they come up with ideas for how to improve the network, then start building dApps. It's a very sort of interesting emergence, and we're very welcoming of it at Linea. I know Eli was talking about this before, but this is something that we really encourage, and we think there's going to be very sort of symbiotic with the debit card and the payments piece, because these projects can then also start plugging into that data of, oh, these are real humans, I'm going to sort of look to sort of leverage that data and actually try and engage them in my community. So again, this is sort of 10x in the community side. Okay, so that was sort of where we are today and what's come thus far, but what's next? Decentralization. So as I mentioned earlier, the first key part of decentralization is the sequencer. Again, we've published some research on our forum. It's all very transparent and open. Really engage you to sort of check that out, get involved. The source code. So everything under Linea is Apache 2, which means you're free to view, fork, modify the code as you wish. One of the cool things is that we've actually onboarded Status, which is one of these sort of OG Ethereum development companies. They actually, through the Nimbus client, secure around 10% of Ethereum proof of stake. So you're starting to get these big development teams have supported Ethereum for years, kind of like Consensus, working on a single software, a single stack. And so we're starting to see that exponential increase of different minds coming together, and it's all because of the benefit of open source, of decentralization. And of course, it's better to have multiple teams working on a software, because if you only have one team and they disappear, it's a single point of failure, so it's not actually decentralized. So any software open source project should be thinking about who can actually build and maintain this code. Okay? And we're also in the process of onboarding more contributors at the moment as well, so stay tuned. And then we have governance. So decentralization around governance is really how do we put the sort of power and the future of Linea into the hands of the community, the people that are interacting with it on a daily basis, and have sort of a vested interest to see that mission and be successful. And so that's why today I'm happy to announce that we are launching the Linea Association, which is going to be a Swiss non-profit organization. The Linea Association will have 3 core objectives. So one, Linea Association will continue to develop the Linea technology, the open source Linea technology. Number 2, the Linea Association will continue to advance and nurture and grow the Linea mainnet ecosystem to bring more businesses and developers on-chain to build exciting applications that bring more users and ultimately deliver more economic and political agency. And then lastly, the Linea Association will be responsible for developing the governance mechanisms and the decentralized staking and proving on the functional side. And there's a very novel thing about the Linea Association, which has never been seen before in the Ethereum space or even the L2 space, and that is that, we'll be using a token to provide community-driven governance, but this token for Linea token holders comes with unique rights and protections. Okay, and this comes under Swiss law. So for the first time ever, token holders will actually have protections and rights, and it'll be enabled through a very sort of symbiotic relationship between the Linea Association and the sort of Linea governance token holder mechanism. Okay, so that, as I said, that means there is a token. The ticker is Linea. The plan is to have the token generation event by the end of Q1 2025. And that will be a key part of the decentralized governance that I was mentioning. So one of the other key things that we are really pushing with this is that we want to do things in the open, very transparently. So we'll actually be putting together some proposals, again, sharing them on our forum posts, having the community get involved, having them help think about the design and all of this stuff, because they're going to be the people that's responsible for its success. So we want everyone, not just ourselves, to be involved in this process. And so the call to action here is that if this is something that interests you, go to our forum, check it out, share us your ideas, and we can just have a conversation. And that's kind of the way we want to build this home network for the world. Yeah. I think that's it. Yeah, so thank you very much. Again, yeah.
Thank you. Well, we know the ticker is Linea now.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a short video presented by Consensus and Linea, essentially, to basically look back from where Linea started and where we are today, where the ticker is Linea. So here's the video prepared by the Linea team.
Ethereum could be the technology that would enable the world to re-architect itself.
If you want to build a ZKVM, you need to do something that is called arithmetization. To do a good arithmetization, it's basically mathematics.
I went from despair, where I thought the project would die, to actually building exactly what we wanted.
It was when we got to $1 billion in TVL that things started to get very exciting, very serious.
Scaling Ethereum matters because Ethereum, from my point of view, is a common good.
We're not building something for some happy fews, for some specialists. It's really built for everyone.